Conversations across time, 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 conversations across time.
God, I'm so confused right now. I don't understand what's going on. Jesus. My baby is gone. They took my baby. I'm so angry right now. My heart hurts because they took my only child. Oh God. I need answers, please. Please, God. I need answers. That's all I need. Okay.
Mom? Mom, can you hear me?
Baby, I hear you.
Why are you down there crying? You need to understand that I needed to go. Look what happened. We now are fighting a war that needed to be fought for our freedom and our rights that we deserve to have. I know you sad that I'm gone. Your only son. But I'm with Dad now. And we're watching you, amongst others, be strong for us as a people. Come on, Mom. It's fine. I'm here watching over you, and I'm here with you every step of the way. But understand that we need to fight and fight hard and continue to fight. Look, we have Martin Luther King now, Rosa Parks, and all these other revolutionary fighters to make sure that you don't have to go through what, to make sure that another mother doesn't have to go through what you went through.
But baby, it hurts so bad.
Sometimes you have to suffer through pain to get through the future and a great future. You may be in pain now, but one day you will realize that it was all worth it. I was the sacrifice. Now, let the movement begin so we can move forward. Mom, I'll never be gone from you. I'm here with you. I will never ever leave. But you have to continue to be strong, not only for me, but for our future little boys and little girls.
And
Gotta go now. You stay strong, Mama, and I love you, and I will always love you. And keep my memory alive.
I love you too, baby. I love you too.
Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Conversations Across Time. Tonight we are joined by Mr. Emmett Till.
How you doing?
We are joined by his mother, Mrs. Till. And I don't dare call you by your first name because you have such a place of reverence in my heart. So,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Till, welcome. Seated next to Mrs. Till is Mr. Theodore Herzl.
You can call me by my first
He's
name.
a frequent guest on this show.
My place in history is not as hers.
Ted, we'll call you Ted.
Yeah, you can call me Ted.
And seated next to Mr. Herzl is President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Thank you so much,
Pleasure to
Mr.
be-
President.
My pleasure.
What can she call you, FDR?
Mr. President.
Mr. President is fine.
I like that, Mr. President.
So seated to my left is Conversation Across Time co-host Babette Josephs, former state representative Babette Josephs. Welcome, Babette.
Always trying to be to the left.
Yes, always to the
You
left.
are to the left, by the way.
Thank you.
Now, last week, we had to change our order a little bit. Last week, Mr. Till made an impassioned, I don't want to call it a plea, he just made a statement, and he felt very passionate about it. And we understand at 14 years old, we get how you can have that opinion. But Mr. Till's statement got President Roosevelt almost up off of his seat. And what his statement was had to do with, why don't you resurrect?
Yeah, no problem. Pretty much why vote, if it's pretty much like it's not going to change anything, at least from our eyes in the black community, because, I mean, how long have we been at this? Trying to have equality. I'm not asking for much, but equality. Like, I don't want to have to sit there and worry about if I'm going to be killed at 14 years old. Trayvon Martin don't have to be worried about if he's going to be killed at his young age. Sandra Bland, all these people, all these names, I can go on and on. Why
Yes,
vote
you
if
can.
y'all are not going to do anything?
Now, here's the thing.
Shame, it's a shame.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you were killed at a very, very young age. Maybe unfortunately, I've lived a long, long time. And in the almost 80 years that I've lived, there have been dramatic changes in race relations and in relationship with Jews, which of course I was I'm a
In
Jew, and
another
of course
life.
anti-Semitism is directed toward me, and racism is directed toward you. And just to put it in a proper perspective, let me say this. When I was in college, for instance, when I graduated from college, graduated from law school, as a Jew, I couldn't just go to any law firm. I had to go to a Jewish law firm to practice my profession, or else open up my own office. If you were black, you couldn't go to any law firm, any white law firm.
Right.
A perfect example is a very revered and is passed
Yes.
now, a judge in the city of Philadelphia,
Yes.
Raymond Pace Alexander,
Yes.
who was a brilliant man, graduated from law school way before I graduated from law school. And he went to join a law firm in the city, and many law firms, and he was turned down in every single one. He had to go and buy his own building in town and establish his own office. That building, by the way, is on the corner of 19th and Chestnut. It's now a Target store. You know that, don't you? Okay.
Oh, wow.
But it was amazing. Now, as the years have gone by, many of my colleagues in school, black, I'll talk about the black experience first, have become prominent lawyers, judges, politicians, mayors, governors, and presidents of the United
Right.
States. So you can't just say it's the same as it always has been, because it's not the same as it's always been. It's gotten better. Has it gotten better at the speed that we of that persuasion who would want it to be better, has it gotten better at that speed? No.
But Mr.
But it
President,
takes
Mr.
time.
President, let me just say this
Sure.
to you. It's philosophically, it's okay to say that. You can't say that to Mrs. Till because her son
Of
died.
course not. We
You
can't take one incident and
No, that's the whole point. You have to take one incident because one life matters as much as any, and that's one of the things that looking back bothers me about the Holocaust. There's people that are Holocaust deniers. They say, "Oh, wasn't really 6 million," and people are making up this. And my attitude, as someone who knows what anti-Semitism is that it doesn't matter. One or 100 or 300, the concept, the mental set is the same. His life
This is true.
illustrates the country's attitude
It's def-
towards black people and how
question.
expendable their lives are, that they
Right.
don't mean anything. And those
Right.
people that say like black lives don't matter, that the counter to Black Lives Matter, what they're really saying is your life really doesn't matter.
Right.
So so to me, things do get better, but we have to fight for the individual. The last segment we were talking about Mr. Khashoggi and the press. Yeah, that's one journalist, and so he wasn't an absolute citizen of the United States, but he represents the free press. Emmett
Correct.
Till represents
Young Black America.
young black, right?
Right.
Young Black
Exactly.
America.
And
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 that
the
was the
problem
stamp.
is politicians like yourself look at at things getting a little better, but they look at the political thing that's more important than the individual thing, and that's the thing that's going on now with your president, Mr. Trump, and he is able to convince people that the other is threatening, and it's all right.
Yeah, but see,
I don't know.
if you take and knock a person down to the point that they are nothing,
You break
Yeah.
their spirit.
yeah, but not just in breaking their spirit. What it does is that it's okay for me to kill you.
Exactly.
It's okay
Right.
for me to do
They-
this to you.
Exactly
Right, 'cause you're
right,
not
Mrs.
really
Till.
a human.
The
Right.
dehumanization of the people.
And-
That's what they did in Nazi Germany. That's
Right.
what Stalin did.
And that's
what
why this
That's
is such
what
a big
happens
problem
all
today.
over the
that's
world
what
now.
and that's
Right.
what what's
That's why
many
we have to
places.
nip it in the
Right.
bud and
and
stop it.
That's why President 45 and his dehumanization of Mexicans and people coming in the
Anybody
border
who's not white
Right.
male.
Must
make,
Right.
Right.
opens the door for the kind of violence that was inflicted on your son.
Now, I want to
Right.
I would just want to throw in one thing that's of interest. When we talked earlier about the midterm elections, we talked last week about that because one of the things that is going on in the country today, when we talk about, you said why vote, is that there's a movement and it's now beginning to, we can morph itself into a movement of restoring the restoration of voting rights for felons.
Yes.
That's totally going to upset. It has the possibility to really upset the status quo. But what I think when I hear you say why vote is you think about all of these felons who are so happy and excited that they are going to, that they may get the franchise back. So why vote? That's a non-starter.
Why vote?
If the black
it makes
people would have
you a
voted
human
in the
being
same
and a
numbers
citizen.
as when Obama was running in this past election, and I know that Hillary, I mean, they try to paint Hillary Clinton as not favorable to black people, which
Right.
I didn't understand that at all, but they did it, and they were able to suppress the black vote. If the black people had voted in the same numbers as they did when Obama ran for president, this idiot would not be the president.
But then
of the
what
United
did
States.
Obama do for black people,
No,
though?
but wait a minute. No. Wait a minute.
What did
Because
Obama do for
he
black people?
but
Yes.
wait a minute. Trump
Besides give
lost
us
the
hope.
popular vote.
Yes.
Trump lost the popular vote
That's
by
my-
3
Yes.
million votes.
Yes.
That's my
Well,
point.
So what you're
Yeah, we know
saying
that.
is,
No, I know, I understand
what
that.
We know
Mr.
that.
Till's saying is, how can you have a system that's just if one person wins the popular vote by 3 million and is not the elected official? He's saying that there's something wrong with the
They
system.
said-
I
Now,
agree with that. Everybody.
The
They
electoral
set
Not
that
everybody,
up.
but we agree with that.
They set that up. Our revolutionary ancestors, because they didn't trust the mob. They
no,
didn't
it's more than
trust
it's
the
more than
crowd.
that. But it was
They-
to protect slavery, and it goes back to the racism
Well, they didn't
and
trust that
everything.
either.
The
No,
rationale
it
for
was
it
to
is not
protect
present
They were
today.
It was to
afraid that-
protect the northern states from passing laws that would outlaw slavery. So this way, it gave the southern states more power. So it goes back to the whole racial. I'm better than you. You don't deserve the right to vote. You're
Right, you're
subhuman.
not a real American.
Yeah, you're
I'm
not
a
a
real
real person. You're not even
American.
not only a real
Right.
American. You're not a real person.
Are
Right.
things
Right.
really that different, though, from the Bush administration to now?
From Bush, no.
Within the black community?
You want my honest opinion?
Yes.
No, but the only thing is Bush was quiet, and this man's a blowhard.
That's what I'm
Other than
saying.
that,
Yes.
Right.
When I say
I agree.
Obama didn't really do anything for us. His main agenda was for gay rights. Remember that? Passed the bill and everything. Like every president had their
Well, I don't know that that was
moment.
Obama's main
He
agenda.
wasn't
'cause
for
he-
that.
But that was our
They had to talk
chance.
them into the-
That's why blacks came out and voted, because that was our chance to, okay, maybe this is equality. This is what we want. You know, we see a black man up there. He's gonna do whatever he needs to do
Yeah,
for
but
us to
What, would he-
change.
what did you want him to do? Let me ask you that question.
That's another
Well,
question.
for one, he
Really
could start
hard.
with police brutality and making sure
yes.
that,
What
that these
he
cops.
did.
He did.
No, Eric Holder was all over police brutality.
Yeah, he appointed
Yes.
an attorney general, a black
Yes.
Just for
attorney
that,
general,
yeah. Just
who
for that.
responded to that.
Yes.
That is true.
You have to understand, in the system, he had a Republican Congress, Republican Senate. He couldn't do anything
Hardly anything.
legislatively.
This country
He passed regulation after regulation to help not just black people, to help everybody
Yeah,
on the
and
environment
I
and everything else.
and I
And
completely
this
understand
idiot
it.
came in and did away with all
Everything.
those regulations
And
did
I
away with
complete-
Obama. He did away with everything that Obama, because he hated him.
Right.
This guy hated him, and
hated
his
him.
only
That a
Because
black
he was black,
man
you
could
know
come
that.
in and do this.
Right, right. You
Right,
know how many
exactly.
people, and we discussed this before, you know how many people in this country said, how could this black guy possibly be smarter than me?
Right.
Yes.
How could
Right.
he be president
But
and smarter?
He's
in
smarter
answer, to
than all
Emmett,
of us.
in answer to Emmett's question about voting, and you know,
That's very dangerous, by the way.
No,
I mean,
but
for
I wanna-
young people to
I-
think that way.
I wanna-
Very, very dangerous.
I'm
you don't
just
mind
giving
me,
me-
you
I'm-
don't mind me calling you Emmett, do you?
Go
Okay,
ahead.
but think about this. An easy way to look at history and to think about it would be this: they don't want black people to vote. That's why they go to so much trouble
To-
for
to
voter
deter
suppression.
us.
They don't want immigrants to vote. So
I
what?
don't want Jews to vote.
what-
Right.
what- so a
They
simple,
know how
a
we're
simple,
gonna
a
vote.
simple approach would
Left-wing,
be:
liberals,
they're my
non-white people.
enemy.
We vote for all
Whatever
of them.
they
Right.
want, I should want the opposite.
But we vote, when we do vote, you know, and we don't see change, that's like sitting there
I know what you're saying.
saying,
Yes.
I'm gonna drink this bottle of water, but I'm
And
still
you're
gonna be
still
thirsty.
gonna be
Right.
thirsty.
Right.
Like,
No, I
what's
know
the
what
point
you're
of
saying.
having water if you're still gonna be thirsty? That's
But
that,
you
but-
would
but-
be, you
but
would
over
be
time
more
it'll
thirsty
change.
if you didn't have the bottle.
I
of
get it,
water.
but I feel like generations that are being born and born,
I
they're
agree.
getting a little bit more, you know, impatient with progress. I get
Right.
it.
So the
Tom-
only thing I would say to you, because of my philosophy, I agree that the changes, there's always going to be racism. So then what's the alternative for black people? My alternative was to set up a homeland for Jews that they could always go to avoid the anti-Semitism.
Yeah, but that
Saying-
doesn't.
Right.
But
No,
wait a
no,
minute.
I'm
That's what
saying
he's
so.
saying.
What's
So
the-
what is
Right.
what
But
does
I
Mr.
get
Till
his
want?
point.
Right, right. Well,
That-
what
I
do you-
get
That's
his
what I asked
point.
him. What would
Me?
you want him to do?
Yeah.
I personally want equality. I want to be able to look at a white girl and not be killed for it personally. You know, that's what I was killed for, right?
Right.
Yes.
But I just want a world that we don't. I can look at you and not see white. I can look at you and not see white. I can look at you and not see
Do you
black.
think-
I see a person.
Do you think that's possible? Because
But-
to the anti-Semitism, I didn't think it was possible.
But
you
wait a
think
minute.
that's possible for black
But hold
people?
up, I have something to
Go
say.
ahead.
And this is how I feel about it. You don't realize your color or your nationality when you're around other people unless someone points it out. Like we're all sitting here having a conversation and you never gave the thought that I'm a middle-aged white man. You know what I'm saying? It's,
Right.
so
That's
that,
kind.
no, but you see what
white.
I'm saying?
I don't know about
So
middle-aged.
I feel like you don't personally identify with anything
Right.
unless it's brought up.
And on top of that, it's taught
Right.
too. It's taught because
Well, you think that, but that's not necessarily so.
Racism is
because
taught.
because of our experience being Jewish, by the way, we do identify with things like that.
That's true.
And and I know in my personal experiences, I don't, and you're very young, but I've been through all of that, and I don't look at somebody and say, oh, they're black. I have to talk a certain way, or I have to go get my
censure
get down,
yourself or
whatever.
something.
I never did that, and I grew up with all kinds of people, and you'll experience that as well. And I know how you feel because I know what the headlines Say, I know when these black kids get killed, running away, they get shot in the back, and they're running away from police, and they're not armed, and they get shot in the back. But the laws are working in your favor. It doesn't always come out that way, and so a lot of times the police officers are acquitted,
But see,
but a lot of times they're
I
convicted.
felt,
But you shouldn't, listen, there's so many problems. Most of the problems, I think, and I may be wrong, most of the problems are economic. If your economic standing can, when I say your, I'm talking about, as
Yeah,
black
I
people
completely
and
understand.
minorities.
The minorities, period.
If your economic standing can rise because of a number of things, because of better education, you don't get the best education in the city schools.
Right.
Everybody acknowledges that. Because of education, because of more job opportunities, more things that'll give you something to look forward to. The problem with youth, white or black, that live in those kind of situations is they don't see hope. Like you.
That's exactly what I
don't see hope. You don't see a way out.
Yes.
But see,
But
they
if-
don't think they're moving. They don't think that progress
moving
is
forward.
moving as
Fast
fast,
enough.
right?
I
as
understand
they
that.
could.
And it's
not.
not going, by the way.
Right.
Because we want to see in our lifetime. I get it. We are paving the way for future generations.
Right.
But I don't want to sit there and have my death in vain, just so kids.
But your death was not.
Not
In
in
vain.
vain.
I get it.
But he's saying
but
other,
that's what I'm saying.
other youth.
No,
that
but I understand. But we're talking about it from the historical standpoint of you are looking at what is going on today,
look at
and you're
reality.
saying, all this violence that's going on. I was killed in 1954, and me being killed in 1954, and Trayvon Martin was what? I'm sorry, 2012.
12, 13.
But I mean, so this
Doesn't
is
seem to change,
it doesn't
Right.
seem to change. The thing that happens is that in order to get any change that you want to happen in this country, in this society, it's by marching to the polls. I know that it sounds like it's pie in the sky, and why would I do that? But what's the option?
Well,
There's no alternative.
Well, that's what I said. What's the alternative for?
Right.
Because
If I march to the poll and the people who I'm voting for can say, I have your best interest in my heart.
Then they'll never
but
be
they
elected.
don't.
Wait a
But they
minute.
don't.
Mr. Till, they'll never be elected.
never
If
be
they
reelected.
stand up and say, okay, all black people, I'm going to get in, and I'm going to do everything for us, and I'm going to even the score. That's the person that's never going to be elected. Seriously, you're not electable.
Yeah.
So
when you think about it realistically.
I get that part.
but I hear you, that's what you want, and the thing of it is the movement itself and the way that it goes forward is that there are all of these people that are out there that are actually working towards what is going to be better for everyone, because we have enough sense to know that there is no way that we get ahead
I was going to say.
and the rest, that's not, because
doing it.
we've been there, we
doing it for
know,
myself.
we know that we have to do it for all of us. That's the challenge. We have to do it for all of us.
What did Obama run on? Didn't Obama run on hope?
hope and
Yes.
change.
Yes,
Yeah,
hope
hope
and
and
change.
change.
Okay,
Yes, he did.
and he wasn't talking about just hope for black people. He was talking
Hope
about
for everybody.
Right,
And-
right.
And that's what has to happen.
And I agree. That's the
for
end game. That's what I want for
institutions.
the end game is peace among everyone. But when you talk about the experience and everything that we have to go through, you don't understand that, Mr. President, because you're not black. No offense.
No,
No,
but,
no,
it's-
no,
but
I
wait a
understand
minute.
what you're saying.
And
Now,
here's the
believe me,
point.
I understand.
And here's the point. The idea of what we do is to talk to each other, because
Right.
I have no idea what it feels like for a gay person to be oppressed.
Right.
Because I'm not gay.
Exactly.
But I still believe that they have a
They
right
have
to
rights.
love who they
Right.
want to love.
Exactly.
So that I can, but if a gay person were to say to me, I don't want you out here advocating for me because you're not gay and you don't understand, then they're losing something, because
Yes,
I'm
right.
a person as a human
Yes.
being who says you have absolutely every right to love who you love.
Right.
I draw the line at children, pedophiles, I don't, but you understand? But other than that, you have the absolute right to love because you're a human being. And if I can't do that and say that about my gay sisters and brothers,
Right.
then You understand? How can I
But it
expect?
comes back to you too, anyway.
It's-
If there's anybody who can get picked on in the society,
That's a problem.
Then
That's
there's everybody can
That's
be
right.
picked
Well,
on.
that's true.
Right.
And that's why what
Right.
we're doing here, talking to each other,
It's
I can't
very
stand in your shoes. There's no
revolutionary.
question about
Yes.
that.
And I can't stand in your shoes.
I
Right.
understand that.
Exactly. yeah.
However, but I can look from the outside
And
I can
empathize.
see
And better
what I
understand.
was talking about was generally speaking, there's been tremendous progress, but that doesn't mean that you don't still feel
And that was
anxiety
my whole
and
point
hurt
of
and
saying
whatever,
that
and
was
you
my
don't
whole
feel
point of
equal.
saying that.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
And what I'm
agree.
saying is that there's a lot of factors that have to come into play to bring that to pass. And you have to work for that through the system. The other alternative is you raise up in arms and you start a war against
And
the
not-
white
yeah.
people or whatever in this country, and you're going to wind up getting slaughtered.
Exactly.
So that's not
That's
that-
not an
the
option.
answer.
And that,
You don't
of
want to
course,
do that.
That's
But
not
you
the
have to work within the system. And how do you work within the system? By putting legitimate people in who really do want to help.
And
who
that's-
really
and
want to
I'm
work.
getting
That's
rid of
the
people
ticker right
like
there.
And you have to get rid of a lot of things that work against that,
And-
like lobbying, like
lobbying's
giant
good.
money in elections where only corporations can put in millions and millions of dollars and put the people they want into. You have to work to get these things fixed.
And
And
I'm
you
gonna
do
say-
that
I'm gonna
by
say this.
voting and
I'm
by
gonna-
getting the right people.
My attitude is there's always going to be racism. There's always going to be anti-Semitism. That's why I advocated for the homeland. President Obama loved to quote Voltaire, and Voltaire said, "Never let the good be the enemy of the perfect." So in other words, what you say is all true, and my philosophy and my attitude is, you're right. However, the alternative is far worse. So you got to fight for within the system and fight for the right to vote and
Always.
do the best you can. And the thing, I still think there'll be racism, and 100 years from now, there'll be a young black man get shot by some police officer somewhere. And it's never, now it'll get better. It won't be as critical as it was, but don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
I don't
And with
want
that,
any.
and with that, we are at the end of another episode. At the end of another episode. I thank you. This has been I love this. I love it. Because we've actually touched on so many things that are so important for us to do. And that's what we do here at Conversations Across Time.
When you finish watching us, discuss it with your family.
Yes,
There you go.
that's right.
There you
That's
go.
right.
Yeah.
There you
Mr.
go.
Till, Mrs. Till, Mr. Herzl, President Roosevelt, Babette, we all say good night to our audience, and we hope that you'll tune in next week, and we'll have another conversation about immigration. So I want to hear what these fine folk have to say about that. So please stay tuned to us next week, and thank you for joining us. This has been Conversations Across Time. Good night.
Conversations across time, 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 conversations across time.